G'day crew, and welcome to this segment of my multi-part video on catching live bait on a Sabiki rig. In this segment we're going to talk about where to go to catch live bait. That's a pretty big topic, but there's some areas I can mention that'll give you a starting point. Now first of all is the shipping channel beacons. The ones that I've got the box splashing around here are the first ones you encounter after you come out of the Port of Brisbane. And if you're launching from the Port of Brisbane, you really should go by these beacons and just see if there's any bait around them. I haven't fished this particular group of beacons. The earliest beacon that I've fished at is the measured mile beacons, and there's usually some bait around them. If there's not, there's some at the 4 beacons. I don't think I've ever been out where I haven't found bait at one of them. But these first few, if you're coming out of the Port of Brisbane, which is somewhere I don't launch from, I'd check them as well. The sooner you can get the bait, the sooner you can get onto your fishing grounds. Now we're still on the shipping channel beacons. This time we're going out a bit further. These are the measured mile beacons and the 4 beacons, plus a couple of others on the shipping channel that the circles are flashing around. Just so you know where they are on the maps, you shouldn't have any trouble finding them. And once you found them, as I say, just have a bit of a sound around them, see if you can see the bait skills on your sounder. We'll talk about finding bait skills on your sounder a little bit later. And in this slide we're still on the shipping channel, this time the east channel and the main channel as it splits off there over to the west. And again, all the beacons along there, well worth a look for some live bait. Which beacons you want to check depends on just where you're going to fish. Obviously you don't want to go too far out of your way, although getting live bait does mean a much better chance of getting good fish. I still don't want to waste my whole day chasing live bait. If I can't get live bait in a reasonable amount of time so I can still go and do some fishing, I use my backup bait that I've taken with me in the esky. Now, other people will argue that if you can't find live bait, you shouldn't be fishing. And they've got a valid point. Live bait's always going to get you better fish. Always has when I've been offshore, no doubt about that. And since I've been using live bait in the bay, yes, it has certainly got me better fish there as well. Another good area for live bait is the artificial reefs. Here you can see West Peel and Harry Atkinson's artificial reef flashing there. Any of the points in there where there's structure on the bottom, you can go and get some live bait off them. Just drop your Sabiki rig down. I try to stay off the structure just a little bit, just try and go down beside it. Because if I miss and I drop down on top of the structure, more often than not I snag my Sabiki rig and I lose it. So try to go down just off the structure if you can still get to the bait school and be off the structure. If you have to drop down on the structure, well, so be it. The important thing is to get the live bait up. Try not to drop down so that your Sabiki goes right into the structure where it will get snagged. And this slide is flashing around Curtin artificial reef and the reef off Redcliffe, whose name I can't remember at the moment. I have fished on the Curtin artificial reef, and the same as Harries and West Peel, you get some live bait there if you just keep your eye on the sounder and drop down when you see the bait skills. I haven't fished on the Redcliffe artificial reef, but I expect that will be the same. Just look for the structure, look for the bait skills, drop your Sabiki down. Then there's the spoil grounds. I've got them flashing up here on the map. They're basically areas where stuff's been dumped over the years, and the bottom can be pretty bad. Although a lot of it has subsided into the sand now and the bottom's fairly smooth in many areas. Some of them do hold bait skills. I wouldn't say they're as easy to find as they are on the artificial reefs, but if you're crossing over one of them, it wouldn't hurt to have a look for your bait skill there. I have pulled bait off some of them, not often and not many, because I haven't really targeted live bait in the bay. For better or for worse, my mindset was live bait for offshore and dead bait for in the bay for whatever reason. Since I was 4 years old, my first time my father took me fishing, whenever we fished in the bay, it was using dead bait. Whenever I went offshore, we tried to get live bait. That was just sort of the rut I was stuck in. I rarely thought outside the box. I have used live bait in the bay on occasion, but I've never put the effort into finding it the way I do now. And I've got George Moll to thank for that. He was the one that said I really should be putting the effort in, whether I'm offshore or in the bay. And yes, it has lifted my game a lot. So thank you, George. Other areas to look for live bait is anywhere you can catch fish. If you can catch the good fish there, there's going to be bait around. Now, I wouldn't go too far into the shallow reefy areas around the islands, because they're too snaggy. Drop a sabiki rig down there, chances are you're going to lose it. It's really hard to fish a sabiki rig in that shallow water. You will, however, often find squid there in the right time of year. But that's another video, we'll cover that later. But there are a lot of other areas in the bay where you can catch fish and the water is deep enough to use a sabiki. The yacht wreck down near Goat is one. There's another wreck down at the north end of Macleay, that's another. There's another wreck off Peel, that's another area. They're all deep enough to use a sabiki on. And again, same caveat, don't drop your sabiki right on the wreck because it'll get snagged and you'll lose it. But the bait skill's all around, so you should be able to pick up some if the skill's there at all. It depends on the tide, etc. Everything that fishing always depends on tide, moon phase, etc. But at the right times you will find bait on all of those wrecks. And there's a lot of other wrecks through the bay. I've marked a lot of them in previous videos and they're all in the Fish Tracks program. Some of them you can find, some of them have disappeared under the sand, some of them have rotted away, but there's still plenty of them there. And last but not least, there's always winter whiting as a fallback. Now they're available on any of the grassy, sandbanky areas around the bay. More prevalent in winter, but you can still catch them in summer. Just don't get caught out using a summer whiting for bait when it's undersized. Make sure it's a winter whiting, and you can tell that by the splotches on its flanks. Now other areas that are worth a try is around jetties. A lot of bait around jetties, and you can walk out on the jetty and drop your sabiki rig down and pick up bait. Also, you'll find bait around boat ramps, but again, that's a pretty shallow area, more for cast netting than for a sabiki rig. And I don't like cast netting for live bait because, as I've mentioned, some species are a bit delicate and they don't take well to being in a net. They'll die fairly soon after you get them out. So a sabiki rig and a de-hooker is my preferred method. And that covers everything I can tell you about places where you can go and look for live bait. As you do more of it, you'll get places which you know there's going to be live bait there at certain times, and you'll get your favourite spots where you can go to almost any time and look around and find something. Around some of the sandbanks are excellent spots for getting live bait, not all of them, but some of them. So get out there, have some practice at it, and you will get good at it and you will be rewarded.